The global fight against cancer has been going on for ages, witnessing notable progress through increased awareness and technological advancements. Early detection and prompt treatment remain pivotal in mitigating the destructive impact of cancer on humanity. In a concerted effort to raise awareness and provide support to those affected by cancer, the NSIA Luther Cancer Center orchestrated a roadwalk to emphasize the significance of early detection and effective treatment, urging citizens to prioritize regular checkups.
The challenge we have in, not just in Nigeria, I would say across the whole of Africa and basically lower middle income countries, is that patients present late. They present late, one, because they're not aware of, what the signs and symptoms are. So they presume that, bleeding from the vagina or, any other symptom, weight loss, all the other symptoms that may be associated with cancer. They ignore those symptoms and they don't present on time. Once you present late, the likelihood that the oncologist, and the team of cancer care specialists will be able to achieve a cure is lower. So that is the challenge in Nigeria. The top 4 cancers that we're dealing with: breast cancer, prostate cancer, cervical cancer, and then colon cancer in this part of the world.
This event is an event done to enlighten our populace about cancer. Cancer Day was 4th of February this year, and we are doing this to raise awareness about cancer, to let us know that cancer is not a death sentence, especially when caught early. There are many procedures that we can do to treat cancer, but more importantly, the most important thing is that we diagnose cancer early so you can have better treatment and curative intent. And this we can do by doing screening. Screening we can do if we have the knowledge of cancer. That's the essence of this program today.
Now, in a related development, for 3 years, bridging the cancer gap was the byword for the global campaign against one of the most dreaded of human conditions, cancer. Of course, we have Dr. Nwobbi, founder and CEO of Children Living with Cancer Foundation, and of course, Tolulope Adeyoola-Oladipupo, who is Programs Manager, Foundation for Cancer Care. We'd like to welcome you both to the station. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, it's more or less 2 topics in one, as it were, and I'm going to start with you, Dr. Nwobbi. You're talking about International Childhood Cancer Day. So let's talk about the importance of marking the International Childhood Cancer Day. What happens afterwards? It's one thing to have this, cancer awareness programs, but what's the follow-up?
Incidentally, it's quite nice that we're having it just about 11 days after World Cancer Day. So cancer is still in people's mind, so to speak. So International Childhood Cancer Day is 15th of February. And is worldwide, and the essence is just to talk about childhood cancer, let people know that children have cancer, and that just as an adult, it's not a death sentence. Things to do, the screening, the treatments, early presentation is quite key. So going forward after the 15th of February, in actual fact, we have from the 15th of February to the 31st of March to do all we can to raise awareness about childhood cancer. So we in our foundation, what we're doing, we've started from the 5th of February, and we'll go on till the end of February. We're having clubs, come to see the children and educate their members on childhood cancers. And because if you take 10 parents of children who have cancer, 9 of them have not heard that children do have cancer. So it comes upon them, as a fairy tale. The one parent who would have heard may not even liken it to Nigerian children or African children. They see it maybe in movies, and in the movies is Oyinbo children that, have cancer. So it's just to bring it to the fore that children, Nigerian children too, do have cancer, basically.
I mean, as we observe, this International Childhood Cancer Day, you've already touched on it, but I would like to hear the message that you would like to convey to the public, to policymakers and stakeholders about the importance of prioritizing the needs of children battling cancer. And if you can just touch on, the mission of the Swing Against Cancer initiative and how it also contributes to the care gap for cancer patients in the community. So let's start with you and then we can go back to that.
Okay, so Swing Against Cancer is actually a fundraising effort by the Foundation for Cancer Care, to sort of raise funds to support cancer patients. So we also want to be able to take cancer screening into different indigent communities. So that's the essence of the Swing Against Cancer. It's actually a golf fundraiser that's going to be holding on Friday, the 23rd of February. So we're bringing together golfers who, want to join and support, by playing. And, we're looking at having organizations support us, through sponsorship and individuals to get involved through donations. So basically that's what Swing Against Cancer is about. It's also our own way of closing the care gap. We have been involved in a lot of activities throughout the course of February, webinars, walks and all of that, just to be able to raise awareness about cancer and also fundraise to help cancer patients.
Very good. Now, Dr. Nwobbi, our lifestyle and environment, how does this impact children having cancer? As you alluded to earlier, in the old days, we hardly hear of children having cancer. And then the narrative has changed. So what are your thoughts here?
It was there. Because I was in medical school almost 30-something years ago, and it was there. But then, having said that, it's not like adult cancer where you see lifestyle and all that. Mostly it is genetics. But then again, the environment, does have a role to play in childhood cancers. So mostly it's actually the parents that should be advised, do the right things, live a clean life, because whatever it is that you do would come up in the child that one is going to bear. So basically having a clean life, not living in radioactive places and things like that are what we advocate. Then for the children, knowing the signs and symptoms of, first of all, even knowing the knowledge that children can have cancer, then knowing the signs and symptoms to look out for in a child, because we've seen tailors being the first people to notice a lump in a child. So if parents are more into their children, looking at them, touching them, and then going for the regular checkup that they should, going for immunizations, a year-old work clinic appointments, the 5 years period, then this can be caught on time, and we have very high rates of survival abroad than we have here. Abroad we have up to 80 to 90% cure rates. Here we're pushing 20, 25, which is not good at all. So bridging that gap, is even more to do with us, with the children, because we want to bridge the gap and go up to 60, 70, and possibly the 80% that we see outside of Nigeria.
Okay. You talk about bridging the gap, and that's a huge gap from 80 to 90% to 20% down here in Nigeria. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the stigma and the misconceptions surrounding cancer in many communities. Is there anything that both your foundations are doing to promote education, awareness, and the destigmatization of this very dangerous disease?
You'll be amazed at how adults don't want to hear that children have cancer. When we go on outreach programs, all they're telling us is not my portion. I reject in Jesus' name. God forbid bad thing. So what we are doing is going down to the grassroots, going to schools, taking message to the students who will now go back home, and we'll have flyers, we'll have the signs and symptoms of childhood cancers. And then let their parents now say, no, I don't want to take a look at it, because it's now in their face. So that is one of the things that we are doing. The other thing is going to organizations, trying to, because I mean, when a company says you will have these people coming in, the adults won't go away. If much as they want to do, they won't take off. Going to churches, to mosques, to just, what we're doing is just letting them have the awareness, let them know that children can have cancer, and these are the signs and symptoms. And it doesn't mean that once a child has those signs and symptoms that the child actually would have cancer. Yeah. Because something like leukemia, for instance, looks very, very similar to malaria. That is very, very common. But if a child is down with malaria on and on and on and on and on, have that child checked out.
I wonder, I just wanted to touch on that. I wonder if, your organization is taking a different approach to bridging that gap. And if yes, could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, so at the foundation, like she said, we also go into communities to educate people. And we focus more on the indigent communities, places where we know that people don't even have an idea. So what we do is we have been involved in a lot of screening efforts where we take like a mammography bus into communities, because, we find that when you ask them to come into the clinic, even when it is free, they don't show up. So we had to think around it and, partner with an organization that has a mammography bus and actually go into the communities. So what we also try to do is to educate them, let them know that, it's not a death sentence. And this screening is actually important because it would help you. If we find something, we detect it early and you can do treatment early. And I agree with what she said because, we go into the marketplaces. We actually had one for marketplaces in Lagos. And even to share flyers, to talk to them about the event, they don't want to have a conversation with you. They don't want to hear you speak to them because they hear cancer. The moment they hear cancer, they don't want to have a conversation. So this education, has to be ongoing. It's something that we have to use all platforms available. We use flyers, we use online platforms, we go into the communities, just talking to people so they know that, cancer is not a death sentence.
You're in the media, you're on television,
yes.
So hopefully more people will get to know about this.
Dr. Nwobbi, you mentioned earlier that, children having cancer has mostly to do with genetics, and of course it's hereditary in nature, as it were. But what about treatment itself? Is it easier on the children than adults? What are your thoughts there?
Cancer drugs are so toxic. There's no part of treatment that is easy on the body. So you can imagine, because sometimes we'll use the ones that are used on adults, but maybe in smaller doses on the children. So you can imagine something that can scrape off one's hair, make the skin, darker. Vomiting, of course, is always there, So, it's not any easier on the children. And I want to, really put it out there that we have parents who have lost their jobs because they have to stay in with their children. And it's not like malaria that you come, you stay for 2-3 days and you go home. They are there for weeks, months, and a parent that have to stay in the ward with the child. By the time the parent leaves there, maybe the first time, you will be given a warning. Second, third time, you are told, you cannot continue, leaving work because you have a sick child. We have to let you go. So we're actually advocating that, employers who have such people can actually help keep their jobs. You may, on the day the person is not there, don't pay, but let the person have that security that the person's job is there by the time treatment is over or by the time you're giving long follow-up period. Because the thought of losing your child, because every parent who has a child who has cancer, the first thing that goes through their head is that the child is going to die. So the thought of losing the child, the thought of losing your job is quite daunting. And if you look at it, we have parents of young children, which means that they themselves are not that old, which means that their savings are not that much, which means that they are not as rich, except they come from a rich background. Then that would help, cushion the effect of all this. And then putting, into that nowadays, the price of everything have skyrocketed. So you can even imagine now the dilemma of these parents.
Cancer drugs as well.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we had a seasoned journalist, Bimbo Oloyede, sitting where you were. She's turning 70 soon, and she said she's working on putting 100 million naira together for cancer patients. I want to ask you how the broader community can get involved with the mission for, Swing Against Cancer and the Foundation for Cancer Care to improve, cancer care and support services. How do people get involved?
Briefly, please.
Yeah, so I mean, people can get involved. Okay, I will just give the example of one of the oncologists at Lakeshore Cancer Center. She participated in the just concluded Lagos Marathon. And what she did with that was to fundraise for cancer patients. So she intentionally, participated to help us raise funds. And now, with the funds she has raised, we would be able to take mammography to more women. And we'll also be able to treat more patients because the foundation supports patients with radiotherapy treatments. So with that, we would be able to, people can get involved using such an example, create initiatives where people will be able to, donate to the foundation. So that's it. And, with the Swing Against Cancer, we are speaking to corporate organizations, reaching out to them. So their sponsorships can also help because at the end of the day, all these funds will be pulled together and used, to help cancer patients. Yeah.
Doctor?
30 seconds.
Okay. Basically, we have program that you call Adopt a Child. Just say to us that you want to adopt 1 or 2 children and take care of all their drugs. And then we'll have, cancers that are not as expensive because it's quite expensive as some others. The others that would need maybe something like bone marrow, So for the Wilms tumor, for, Burkitt's lymphoma that is like between 15 to 20 million, we can have people who can take up this child and then take care of them.
All right, very good. Dr. Nneka Nwobbi, founder, CEO, Children Living with Cancer Foundation, of course, Tolulope, Adeyoola-Oladipupo is Programs Manager, Foundation for Cancer Care. I'd like to thank you both for coming to the show. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.